Welcome back to a mini episode of the Authentic Man podcast. I'm your host, David Chambers. And I haven't been doing these the last couple of weeks. I've just been really busy. I'm really busy, and I really record these when I feel like inspired by something. And I usually feel inspired every week, but it's been a busy few weeks. So today I'm going to talk about how we can be more attractive in dating. You know, how men can get more dates. And this isn't necessarily going to be the silver bullet stuff. You know, this like, do this one thing and women will love you, because those things don't work. I'm telling you, I've been doing enough dating in my life and enough coaching of men in my life to tell you that those things, they don't work long term. They might work like for 10 minutes, but really, if you're listening to this and you're a mature man and you want longer term success in dating, meaning that you want to lead a dating that leads into a relationship, then these are the things that are going to both serve you in dating and then serve you in a relationship. If you're just looking to get more dates, to get more sex, then stop listening now. Just stop and move on to another podcast that's going to maybe help you with some more tactics and manipulation and stuff like that, because this isn't that. This is going to be like stuff that will fundamentally change how you date and how women respond to you, and how when you then go into a relationship, you're actually in a state geared to actually create long-term, good quality relationships. So, also another thing is that I've got a course coming up. I'm running a mini course. It's going to be in January and February. It's going to be about 4 or 5 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, right? And I haven't finalized it all because I just haven't yet. But if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to change how my 2024 is when it comes to dating. I want to really date from a place of feeling empowered, of feeling confident, and I'm tired of saying I want to do something about my dating life, and I'm really going to step into action. Right? This is for people who are really like, I am committed to making a difference. I'm committed to making a change in my life and my dating life so that I start to get these sorts of dates and the sort of women that I really desire. So this program's going to be really cheap. It's £150. It's a live program. It's going to run on once a week, most likely Mondays through some of Jan and some of Feb. If you're interested, then drop me an email and I can tell you more about it. But really, it's going to be some of the stuff I talk about today, expanded and giving you exercises and practices that you can go out into the world and do that, plus some accountability. And we're going to look at some of the deeper rooted fears and worries that hold you back in dating, particularly the ones that are unconscious, because that's what I see in my coaching that's really holding men back, is the unconscious fears and how they react to them that actually holds them back in their dating life, that they don't realize that they're doing. They don't realize that we're in dating life. And often they blame outwards the women they meet, but really it's the way that they're showing up. So, into today's context. So when it comes to being more attractive and getting more dates, ultimately, right, there's a few things that really go a long way. And these are the top headline ones, right? Emotional intelligence, which is not binary. It's a scale. It's levels, right? There's being emotionally unintelligent and there's being incredibly emotionally intelligent, right? There's a scale, a spectrum. So you might go, oh, I'm emotionally intelligent. Okay. But where are you on that scale? Are you 25% in? Are you comparing it to the people around you? Like, are you comparing it to maybe you listen to people like me, maybe you listen to, right? Or are you comparing it to men that you don't know yet, or the sort of men that you don't spend time with because maybe they're just a few levels ahead of you in life and so forth? Communication is one of them. Communication is like the most key thing when it comes to dating. Like, simple as that. If you don't know how to communicate very well and you're on the low end of communicate, clarity, inspiration, fun, playfulness, it's going to be a struggle for you. And it's something you can do about, something you can work on. We'll talk, and also like grooming, doing the work, doing the deeper work to untangle your emotional blocks, fears, dysfunctional patterns. Because this is, again, a key thing, because if you're not aware of these things in your dating life, right, these emotional blocks and patterns and dysfunctional habits that you do, if you're not aware enough to stop yourself from doing them, right, because there's being aware and then there's actually doing something to take different action, radical courses and changes. So when certain situations come up, you're not following this habitual pattern. If you're not able to do that, then you're just recreating what you've always had, right? And most likely, if you're listening to this, it's not the dating life that you want. So emotional intelligence is about, first of all, feeling your own feelings, right? Not distracting yourself from your feelings and emotions constantly with numbing, with drugs, with alcohol, with sex, with porn, all those things, and actually feeling them and being able to express those feelings, right, in a way that's coherent, that can be understood, that you get and has has nuance and depth. That last bit there is what most of men lack: nuance and depth, the ability to communicate with nuance and depth of what they're feeling, to feel others, right? Emotional intelligence, part of that is being able to feel other people. And that includes in the moments when you're feeling heightened emotions. Say you're on a date and you're nervous, right? But when you're really nervous, when we're often very nervous, we can't think or feel outside of what we're feeling. And we become quite selfish and self-centered. You sit there nervous thinking, I'm nervous. Oh my God, they're judging me. What's going on? And you don't step outside of yourself and be like, oh, how's this person feeling? And let me connect to them as well and have a conversation. And then your whole date is just tinged with your nervousness because you can't step past that and you can't feel the other person. You can't place your attention on what's going on for them so that you can create connection, right? And that's nervousness, fear, anxiety. They're all the same group in my eyes. Part of emotional intelligence is also being able to sense your environment. You know, you go to a dating event or whatever event and be like, what's the like underlying feeling of the people in this room? Like, oh, people seem quite fun and jovial. Actually, that group over there, they're really cool and fun. I'm going to go over to that group because they're interesting. And then feeling the energy of that group, the emotional intelligence to feel and then come in maybe to introduce yourself with a comment or something like that. That takes a certain level of emotional intelligence, which a lot of people don't have because they get stuck in their own feelings and they can't feel what's going on because they're just like, I'm not confident, I'm nervous, I'm overthinking, and they can't like feel the room, and it's a practice. You can learn to place your attention on others. Another piece of emotional intelligence I think is really important is reactivity. And this is a big spectrum because there's like, when you're highly reactive, you know, someone might ask you your name, and because of the story you have in your mind, how you feel about yourself, you're like, oh, they don't want me here. That means they don't want me here. And you react from the energy of that, right? And then there's like if that's like a boulder, that's like a giant rock, you've got like the sandy bits of emotional reactivity is when it happens in the moment in conversations and someone texts you and you're like, oh, I'll text them back later. Maybe it's someone you've started to date. You text them back later. What you don't realize underlying there is like maybe a fear of intimacy and closeness, or fear that if you get back too soon, you're going to be seem too keen. And you're reacting to that feeling, but you don't know you're reacting to that feeling. And this is the level that I see a lot of men, right, causing them a lot of problems in their lives, is this emotional reactivity they're really unaware of. It's like an unconscious reactivity that's ruining dating lives. The next piece to be really attractive, right, to women is the communication. Being able to communicate, being able to like string a sentence together, right, about yourself, about them, with questions and so forth, with depth. You know, like being able to talk about your experience. You know, like yesterday, me and Ulsa, we had a beautiful day out and we went shopping and we were playing around and we were like laughing and joking and so forth. And I could describe this day to you in really beautiful, intricate details that have you want to listen, because there's depth, there's emotion there's feeling, there's tonality, there's like even pausing for effect. Like an ability to just communicate in a way that has someone want to listen to you, not droning on in this monotone where you're not really paying attention to them or how they're feeling what you're saying, or you're stuttering constantly because you're looking for the perfect thing to say. Because when we communicate in those ways, those two ways, monotone, stuttering, people don't want to listen to us. It's like hard work listening, or even simple things like eye contact. Being able to look at someone shows a level of confidence, right? Or being able to be present. And that's not the same in all cultures, but most cultures, when we face someone and we are eye contact and a soft face and a soft front, right, and a smile, that's listening, right? But the communicating with depth, these things are really, really important. And again, there's a sliding scale. Too often as men, we're like, oh, I'm a good communicator. I've had clients come to me and goes, yeah, I'm a really good communicator. And then I start to ask them questions. And I tell them, I'm like, you need to improve your levels of communication because this is what's holding you back in your dating life. And no one said that to them before. And they almost feel maybe offended. But I'm like, I'm here to serve you. Like, your friends aren't always going to tell you this information because, they don't want to upset you. But I'm here to serve you as your coach. Being able to have ideas and express them confidently, right? Like, when we're in a date and it's like someone asks you about, I don't know, your thoughts on particular world things, and you're like, oh, I don't want to say anything that's going to offend them. I don't want to say anything that's going to upset them. Let me not really say anything. Like, this hurts your dating life because people feel that and they're like, okay, this person isn't willing to like put their stake in the ground and go, this is what I think about this. Like, what's your thoughts? Or, because there's a line. I know that's that fear maybe that comes up for you. Is like, oh, if I say what I think, they're going to not like me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, good. Sometimes you're going to have your ideas and people won't like them. I remember when I was dating, and I remember going on a date with a woman and telling her, I was like, I'm not looking for a monogamous relationship. We're looking for non-monogamy. And she was like, why? And we sat and had like a half an hour conversation about non-monogamy and why it was important to me and why that's what I wanted at that time. And she was like, I'd never really thought about that in that way. I never really thought about it from that perspective and that idea. And, that nothing really went on. Nothing, that date didn't lead to anything else. But I was able to express myself and my mind and my thoughts with confidence, even though, she didn't agree with me. She appreciated it. We had some really lovely conversations about various other things, right? But it's been able to express yourself in this way, right? Under the communication, important thing, really important for when it comes to dating, being curious about someone else's world. I did a post on Instagram about this recently. It's like being curious about someone else's world, but not just like, what did you do? Where did you go? Like, what was that place like? How did it feel when that thing happened? Getting deeper into understanding, or say there'd been someone, you go, yeah, I went to that play as well. I went to that country as well. And what I really loved was this and this about it. Like, what did you think of the food? What did you think of the culture? Like, did you struggle with the way that people were acting or anything like that? Getting into that curious depth of someone's mind and understanding and experience. This is somewhere that men really fall over a lot of the time. And it makes your dating really flat. It makes you seem really boring. It makes you seem really unintelligent, right, as well, because you can't really hold conversations that leave people feeling like, wow, that was interesting. I learned something about myself. There's a podcast by Stephen Bartlett I listened to recently with, I think it's Robert Greene. He wrote, what book did he write? 48 Laws of Power, but also a book about seduction. And he said something in it. He said, a really important part of seduction is reflecting someone else's world back to them in a way that inspires them. And I think that's or like allowing someone to be inspired by themselves. And this is something that I learned in my dating life, is like people, they know themselves, but they only know themselves so much. So when you talk to someone and you are inquisitive about them and their opinion, and maybe you give some of your own thoughts about life and yourself, you start to stir their mind and their inspiration to think in ways they may have never thought before. And this is incredibly attractive, because as a man, if you can do that, it shows a level of like, you can lead a woman, right, to emotional and mental and even, sexual experiences beyond what she knows that she could really enjoy. And most men can't, right? And that's why they're low value men. And I don't really get into this high value, low value thing, but it's why they're not attractive, because, in this age where women are very intelligent and they're very capable financially, it's like, these are the currencies. These are the things that are really valuable, right? When it comes to it, the emotional intelligence, the communication, and even actual intelligence, like this is another thing that's really important to bring to dating. It's like intelligence, like this, you can show that through curiosity, right? And intelligence isn't only just about what degrees you've had and so forth. Intelligence can just be learning about the world, like how things are, how things work, history, the future, like, and not just in singular topics, like, learning about women's rights and what it's like to be a woman, learning about the struggles of women or the struggles of men, or maybe masculinity and femininity, learning about like stock market, all these things, so that when you come to a woman and you're having conversations, you can have a range of conversation about different topics and bring interesting ideas and thoughts and combine thoughts that you've had about different separate ideas and the way the world works. Too many men are just like accepting the way the world is, or scared to really be interested and too busy doing things that are really like pointless. Like, watching TV is pretty pointless most of the time, though you can learn a lot from documentaries and so forth. Because when you're intelligent, you can bring perspectives from different angles and you can listen and hear things in different ways. Another thing, and this is a really simple one to solve and fix, right? Grooming. Like, men, when it comes to grooming and looks, I always say every man should go to the gym. Every man should do some sort of exercise for his physical body. That's also partly because it's good for the nervous system to stretch yourself, as well as emotional work is good for stretching your your nervous system as well, because you can hold more capacity, more difficulty, and more intensity, right? That's why a lot of men really struggle in conflict, because they can't hold intensity and they get reactive. Is to gym, work out in some way. It doesn't have to be gym. It could be exercise. It could be running. It could be yoga, whatever it is. This is really important. Then grooming is learning how to dress, learning how to bring colors, learning how to shave and like look after your skin and all these things. These things are really simple. Like every man can get himself up to a 7 out of 10. Like that's really the truth in my eyes. Every man can do that. And you can do all these things simultaneously in your life. And probably the most important thing is direction and purpose. Having direction and purpose, like where you're going, what you're wanting to create, but also following it, right? Also tackling the fears you have about purpose and meaning and direction, and tackling those. Because when you do those things, that direction, moving through fear, getting over difficulty, bringing in the intelligence and being maybe creative with how you move forward in your life and how you create the things that you want, instead of being like completely derailed by rejection constantly and so forth. This will make you incredibly attractive as a man. These are really simple things that I've said here. And obviously one of them, which I don't touch on, is being an action taker, being a leader in your life, right? And as I said, I've got a program coming up in January, February, and a big part of that program is going to be leadership and action. You know, because if we are in leadership and action, then meeting women just becomes a byproduct of our lives. And there's going to be a whole module about leadership and action and getting you into action. And just joining the program shows a level of leadership and action. I've also got a workshop I'm running on the 20th of November in the evening called Creating the Spark. This is where I go deep into the conversational piece, the communication piece, about dating and being on dates, and how you can create dates that feel with the spark, you know, that connection, that aliveness, that feeling, that kind of sexual connection and sensual connection. I really delve into that. So that's an hour-and-a-half workshop. So if you're interested in that, again, the show notes contain the link to that. You can buy a ticket and come along, and I'll be there. I'll be taking questions as well, so be able to ask me live direct questions, and potentially, if you're lucky, if there's space for that, even get some direct coaching for me during that session. But men, like I said, if you want to dive deeper into this and you want your 2024 to be a grave improvement on last year in your dating life, you need to seek support, and I can help you with that. And it's important to be around men who know more than you. This is something for your life as well, who are well versed in things that will reflect back to you really honestly where you can be better and how you can show up better. So if you're interested in that, just drop me an email about the program. Don't leave it, because it's not going to be a massive program, and I'm going to put this out to my community as well, men who I've worked with and so forth, who are going to want to be involved. So don't go, oh yeah, well, I think about that, because that's that same attitude that has your dating life not be where you want, because you're always leaving, kicking things down the can. It's time to do something about this now. Well, so until next week, people, ciao.